Hello, welcome to another episode of Montana Shares, your opportunity to find out about the nonprofits that make our state great. I'm your host, Bill Crane, and today I have Rebecca from Montana Discovery Foundation. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill.
Again. So it's been a few years, and we should probably just kind of catch people up on what your programs are, how they're being affected by COVID, how you're adapting to that. Let's just dive right in.
Absolutely. So the Montana Discovery Foundation is a nonprofit that serves the Helena, Lewis, and Clark National Forest. And we do interpretation and education for the Forest Service. We do programs on history and on outdoor recreation and plants and animals and everything that you'd find out there on the forest. Since the Forest Service is an agency that manages land and public lands, we can do all the things that we can teach on all the things that the Forest Service allows you to do. So even sometimes we do mining programs and forestry and timber harvest and things like that to kind of get people understanding what's out there and what they can do.
Right.
Now, our programs in the last few months, a lot of our school programs were canceled with the school cancellations. We did end up canceling International Migratory Bird Day. So that was a pretty big and important community event that we run every year. And we've pushed back our Master Naturalist program. So it's a week program in the summer that brings folks in from around the community that want to become Master Naturalists.
Well, let's just find out what that means. What are you in your Master Naturalist?
Yeah, so we take kind of a deep dive into things like botany and plant identification and wildlife surveys. We do amphibian surveys in ponds. We take folks out in the field for almost the entire program and learn how to do citizen science programs. So learn how to collect data about our natural resources, and they learn about water quality, and they learn about forestry and wildfire and all of the things that folks want to learn more about when they're going on a hike and they're wondering, you know, what's around them and why do things look that way out in the landscape.
Pretty hands-on.
Yes.
Get down on your hands and knees and go look for frogs.
There is definitely, up to your waist in water with waders on, trying to find some tadpoles and things like that.
You know, I don't know what it is about finding frogs. It just makes me so happy. We go down biking in Three Forks, and where the Jefferson and the Madison meet is got that nice pull out there, and I got to see some frogs on one of the more recent visits, and somehow, I don't know, it makes me happy to see them jumping around. Yeah,
I mean, if you have frogs in an ecosystem, it's often pretty healthy, and it's a great place for you to play, because if the frogs can be there, then you could probably be there too.
Right, right. Okay, so you can you've delayed that program.
Yeah, so it's normally the third week in June, and this year it's going to be the third week in August. So August 17th is the first day of that program, and 1 week long.
Have to wait a couple of months to get your hands dirty.
Well, yeah, but this is the perfect time to start signing up for it and start planning your calendar around it.
Okay. Okay, what other programs? How are they doing?
So we do have a large event, Jazz in the Woods. It is a concert out at Moose Creek Cabin, one of our most historical sites in the forest. And usually there are 200 to 300 people that come, and they sit in the woods and they listen to live music. We cannot have that event this year, but we will be doing it again next year.
Okay. Out of curiosity, where is Moose Creek Cabin? I draw a blank on it.
Yeah, Moose Creek Cabin is west of town and off of Highway 12. You can turn onto Remini Road, right where the water treatment plant.
Yeah. Okay.
And so you go up 10 Mile Creek, and eventually you end up on Forest Service land. There's 10 Mile Environmental Trail. You can go hiking, and then Moose Creek Cabin and Moose Creek Campground are both Forest Service sites. The cabin is a rental program cabin, and 10 Mile Creek is our water supply here in Helena.
Right. I guess I remember the campground. I guess never interacted with the cabin, so.
It's an amazing place to rent. There's even, there's a stove, there's lights and things like that, so it's a little bit more upgraded.
It's one of the civilized ones.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. Okay, let's move on to the next program. And how's it going?
So we end up in the fall time, in the fall programs. We do a lot of programs with schools. Some folks don't realize we have a long-term monitoring program on Mount Helena with 7th grade students. And so 7th graders learn about forestry, then they come up on Mount Helena for an entire day and they collect data at plots all over Mount Helena. And it's been going on for almost 2 decades, to the point where we have data from before the mountain pine beetle epidemic came through.
Right.
And we're comparing every 5 years what that data looks like. And so we can show the city forestry managers how things are changing and how their management is doing on the ground. If they're introducing a bug to get rid of a noxious weed, are we still seeing that noxious weed in the plots years later? And so that's a fall program. And then we're going to do all kinds of different programs in the fall. The Adopt a Species program, we bring live birds from Montana Wild out to all of the schools in the area, and they kick off with a different wildlife species that they get to learn about every single year. And then we kind of carry our programs on into winter, and we do snow school. So we have over 100 pairs of snowshoes that we bring to students and public events and things like that all winter long. And we get people out there. One of the cheapest ways to recreate in the winter is just having a pair of snowshoes and going out.
I was going to toot the horn of snowshoes. I've been a cross-country skier and a downhill skier for decades. And 3 years ago, we finally broke down and tried it, and then immediately went out and bought a pair, because it really is a great way to move around vertical surfaces.
Oh yeah.
And it's, well, the uphill aspect in particular. And I'm sold on them now. We didn't get quite as much snow as we would like this winter. It was a weird winter, but yeah, snowshoes are great, without a doubt.
Most of the time when we have students out on the forest snowshoeing, it's the first time they've ever done it. And for some of them, it could be the last time, but some of them really get into it and want to do it later in life. And, you know, you can buy a pair of snowshoes, I think, at Costco for $70. And it's a really easy way to just get into some sort of winter recreation when we sometimes feel like staying indoors. And
well, it's the learning curve is what, about 5 or 10 steps or something like that. We tell folks, if you can snowshoe, you can walk, or if you can walk, you can snowshoe. I would say, you know, I do like the idea of having the poles too, but it's about as easy as you could ask for a learning curve.
Absolutely, yeah. But it does. It is very good exercise. We look at our little charts of, you know, how much exercise you get. You could burn 600 calories per hour snowshoeing if you got deep snow. So
yeah. Well, I live in Unionville, so we had 3 or 5 storms total, 3 in the fall, 1 in the spring, that probably gave us more snow than the entire winter put together on just 5 storms that weren't winter.
Yeah, well, and what was funny was that this past winter we were pretty much bare of snow in all of the schoolyards in Helena. I think we got 1 snow in December and not another one until about March.
Right.
But we still do snow school programs, so we just go out and we learn about how snow is made and how animals survive the winter and things like that. We can't always get them on snowshoes, but we can sure have fun and learn about winter.
Good. What else do you have for me?
Yeah, so we get into spring. We've just finished up our Celebrating Wildflowers program, and last month, just a couple weeks ago, we had a guided hike on Mount Helena, and we put out little flags, and people can take our field guide that we've created for the flowers of Mount Helena, and they go and they learn how to identify each plant by visiting the flags and guiding themselves through their own hike. We also have an art contest for Celebrating Wildflowers, and we ended up, again, every year with a billboard with the winner's art. But what students do is they illustrate some traditional stories. A lot of them are traditional stories from Montana about these plants, and then they have to illustrate the story. And so they draw a picture of the flower, and, you know, maybe somebody cried some tears on the forget-me-not, and there's usually somebody crying in the picture. So it's a fun art contest, and I think the billboard is right now still up on Euclid Ave, west side of town.
I've often thought we should rename, I believe Prospect Shaft Trail should be Wildflower Trail because it's, I believe, usually the most prolific area for wildflowers on Mount Helena.
Absolutely, yeah. It's nice that we live in the mountains because we have lower areas like Mount Helena that might have flowers earlier, and then you can hike on up to the Continental Divide Trail up on McDonald Pass, and you'll see wildflowers all the way through July and even into August, and then you start your berry picking, and it's a really great place to live here.
Without a doubt. So you're surviving no matter what. Your programs are being modified, but going forward.
Absolutely, yeah.
What do you see for the future? Anything new or exciting?
Yeah, we keep working with our schools and developing new programs. Right now, we're working on the Youth Forest Monitoring Program, where we bring area high school students out for an internship for the summer. And they can learn how to monitor forests, how to collect data and do real science on the forests, and then they are able to present their findings to the Forest Service and tell forest managers how to manage the land or what they're seeing, how the management is working as well. So this is another long-term program that we do. So the immediate future is our Youth Forest Monitoring Program, and students in that program quite often go into natural resource fields and environmental conservation, and some come to work for the Forest Service after a few years. But for the foundation, we are working on a lot of different programs, maintaining all of our programs that we've had for the past 20 plus years, because a lot of nonprofits in our area might not have the same longevity, and so we work with a lot of different groups and a lot of different agencies.
Right. Well, I'd love to just geek out on all the things you find. Is there anything really interesting to you that, like these Mount Helena programs or the students in the forest doing the work, do they find anything interesting, or is there anything interesting that fascinates you?
You know, it's always fascinating to me how resilient our landscape is. And so what we find, you know, sometimes with our citizen science monitoring is that some of the things we thought were harmful are beneficial. And, you know, properly managed cattle grazing in some of our streams is can be pretty good for our streams or for our landscape and things like that. With students, I am always, on the one hand, surprised when a student, you know, knows every single fact about something that I'm trying to teach them. And then sometimes it's just such a great opportunity to teach kids that have never learned anything and have never been on snowshoes or never been on a wildflower walk before. There's a real fascination and real excitement about counting all the different flowers that they saw for the day if we take a hike. It
can be pretty wild. Some, you know, when they're out thick, there's an amazing variety of flowers out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. So, kind of right now is a good time to sign up for the naturalist, the master naturalist.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's sort of the thing to do now if you're looking for something to do out in the woods and interact with you guys.
Yep, and we will also be having probably one moonlight hike this summer, and so that is a program that we do right before the full moon comes out once a month, and we take folks on a hike, and maybe it's a flower hike, or maybe it's just a fun landscape, natural history hike, and then, you know, they can watch the full moon rise as we walk, and so that's something we've kind of put on hold for the last few months as we try to prevent people from congregating, but we're going to start those programs.
Watch for the full moon and cycles, see when something might be coming up.
Yeah, and so our Facebook page is a good place to watch for our events that are coming up as well.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, thank you for being on the show. Thanks for catching me up. There's so much work that you do. It's sort of hard to cover in 15 minutes, but I really appreciate the overview.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay. Thanks for being on the show today. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. Have a great day.